What will be the significance of LeBron surpassing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? People will talk about all of the different accomplishments that he has. This will be one of the most significant for sure.
Well, it will end the debate for the fools out there who questioned whether or not he ever deserved to be on the Mount Rushmore of basketball. You won't debate that much longer. You understand the greatness of him. He's a four-time champ, four-time league MVP. You know, he's done what he's done. He's been the marquee. He's answered the call on a year-in, year-out basis. LeBron James has averaged 25 points or better for 19 consecutive years, the last 19 years. He's averaging 29. 8 and 7 right now in his 20th season in the NBA. He is nothing short of sensational, and that really explains when I spoke to Jeannie Buss before the season began. All she was concerned about was the happiness of LeBron James. She says we owe it to him to do all we can. You see why she feels that way.
We also owe it to him to look at the totality of who and what he is. And the problem in a culture, in a time now where people are obsessed with numbers, many at this network, the problem is you stop, you narrow your focus. We don't need to narrow our focus on LeBron James. The most important thing he will have done this year to me is not pass Kareem whenever that happens, but he passed Kareem in Magic. It's the company he keeps, the company he's in. So think about this. He's surpassed the greatest passer of all time. I'm sorry, I declared him that. There's nobody that's Magic Johnson.
Right.
And the person with the most incredible scoring weapon in the history of sports in America.
Absolutely.
All right? So he's in that group. So why do I need to reduce him to just think about his scoring or the number of points? I don't know the number of points. I don't care. His greatness, and he talks about it with Dave McMenamin, and we will hear more about it. He's so well-rounded. I mean, he has done so much in the game. And even, by the way, that interview, we hang on. Most people ain't saying nothing during these things. LeBron James explains the game better. He takes you inside. He breaks it down. His insight, he brings it to you in these interviews. And all of that is a testament to him.
My first reaction is that it's still a travesty that players out of high school still can't enter the NBA draft. When you watch a player accomplish what he's accomplished, the professionalism, the durability, the versatility, to be all-time in points and top 5 in assists, that's virtually unheard of. And so I want to make sure I pay testament to his all-time greatness. When we start talking about the best scorers of all time, let's remember there are people like Wilt Chamberlain that average 50 points in a season. There are people like Michael Jordan that have 10 scoring titles. And we start talking about the all-time greatest players of all time. Yes, I'm going to acknowledge LeBron needs to be in that conversation. But when we bring up 4-time champion and 4-time MVP, I want to remind people that's less than Kareem, Russell, what they've accomplished.
Kobe, Magic.
It truly is. And so, again, I want to give him the testament to his greatness, but for him to acknowledge a past first player has the all-time scoring record is just remarkable, and I salute him.
That's the most amazing part. When you think of LeBron, for all of us who follow the sport, like scoring is nowhere near the first thing you think of, and he will be the league's all-time leading scorer.
I'll tell you something. One of the things, and I don't think LeBron even has appreciated this much about himself, as much as we can dissect and be critical of the game in the moment as we watch stuff, is very little you have an excuse to say about him, because when you ask him a question, to point to Wilbon's point, he will answer and explain to you what it is. And so what happens is that he's one of those rare athletes that literally have a justification to be upset with you, because he sits in front of the microphone. When do you see him avoid post-game interviews? Almost never. He goes to the front of the microphone and he will explain to you in detail what you think you were watching, but you may not have seen.
I want to put a PS on this. So the night that in San Antonio in the finals, where LeBron had the cramping and that, and I think it was game 1.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that night, we had a sit-down interview scheduled for the next day. And I remember calling the Heat to say, is LeBron going to do this? Is he going to do this? Because I know what I would want to do. I would say, no, wait a minute, I had a bad night. I don't need to come in. Yeah. And LeBron said, of course, what are you talking about?
That's right.
And he came and we sat and talked about that and 50 other things in a half an hour the next day.
Yeah.
And this is important. At a time where people don't want to play every night, don't want to answer, as Stephen A. said, the bell every night, the responsibility of being great. LeBron James does that unfailingly. And I think that people need to look at that instead of isolating on any one thing in his career.
Can I say one other thing about this to you, Jalen, that I think you in particular will find interesting? He is also the first immortal of the social media era, which has changed everything, the conversation to the point that you were making and other things. Michael Jordan didn't live in this era. None of the other legends that we talked about had to deal in the kind of daily chasm, it's not the right word that I'm looking for, the daily tornado of discussion that comes not just from people like you who wrote columns or like me who hosted radio talk shows, but now literally every person with a phone in their hands. He's the first of the all-time greats to live in that kind of scrutiny.
He's mastered it on and off the floor. He will be somebody that always dots the I's and crosses the T's. If he leaves in Cleveland, he's going to go back and win a championship. He's going to make sure he understands what he's posting. He's going to make sure he's responsible off the floor. And it's philanthropic work. So many times when you're the best player in the game, Greeny, when you speak out on topics about social justice and consciousness, you threaten to alienate part of your audience. I appreciate, for the most part, he's been conscious of that, but he's been willing to do it for 20 years of his career.
He didn't care. He actually spoke on it and said, I'm not stopping. I'm going to speak about what needs to be spoken about. And it's a testament to him as well. And you're absolutely right, because he did the same thing for me years ago when I interviewed him in Cleveland. He wasn't, something happened and I thought he wasn't going to show. Like, no. I gave a commitment. I'm going to honor it.
Owns up to everything.
This is who he is.
Unbelievable.
This is who he is. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.